I don't know, Ian, do you want to share the slides or? That would be good. Hi, everybody. Thanks a lot uh, for coming along. I think it's talking about live events. I think that they are, one of the most effective ways of um, communicating and uh, heritage. And I'm not sure exactly how much experience you all have of that. I mean, I know that everybody here has participated in live events because this is a live event and you're participating in it, and also because they become so kind of ubiquitous on the internet. There's lots of different ways of going about doing live events, and so we're just going to show you some examples and some workflows that work well. But that doesn't mean to say that there aren't other ways of going about doing it. So I suppose the first thing is, why go live, or what's the point about the thing? And so if we move on to the next slide, that would be super. Yeah, so live events are great for collaboration with other people. They can be they can also be a great focus for fundraising. Um, if there's an actual event that's taking place, a physical event that's taking place, it can be a way of broadcasting it and enabling people to participate. Um, it can be a way of communicating a tour, so you can, walk around and do a tour yourself and uh, broadcast that so that people can participate in that live. It's also great for hosting tutorials, or a workshop, so you can have a panel discussion talking about things. It can be a way of showing films and having commentary, maybe getting a director or people who made the film to participate in it. It can be a good way of doing interviews. So there's a whole range of different activities that can take place live. And I think the thing is that, if we're actually setting up an event that we want to be a live event, then we would probably want, often it would be a good idea to have a combination of these different formats inside of the same live event. Okay, so so you could have a bit of an interview, show a bit of a film, do a walk around, show some interactive stuff, any of those things. So that's good. And what isn't so good is like if you just have, the same thing going on for a long period of time. So you just have this, just use the sort of round table format and have that continuing. What's good is to have lots of context shifts, so every few minutes, or moving from doing one thing into doing another thing. That's good in terms of keeping your audience engaged and keeping it kind of an interesting and dynamic feel to what is happening and what is going on. So yeah. So if we kind of go on, live events are, you know, historic events. So this is a picture of kind of the first transatlantic, I think it's the first transatlantic live event taking place. So that was, a major focus of interest. And so moving on to the next, yeah. So this is 12th of July 1962, 12:18 a.m. We have the first live transatlantic broadcast taking place. And then moving on, the moon landings, pretty much as they happened, one full step for a man, a big step for mankind, or one full step for person, big step for personkind. Again, millions upon millions of people tuning in, the live impact of the event. And then moving on to next slide. Yeah, 3.572 billion viewers. I looked at the FIFA World Cup final. I think over half of the global population turned into world football's competition, the 2018 FIFA World Cup. And I don't know what the figures were for watching the European Cup, but I think that that those sort of live broadcasts attract large numbers of people. And then moving on. Oh, during lockdown, the FIFA World Cup 2020, over 20 million people tried to engage in it. So I thought, those sorts of live events can attract lots of people. But I think the thing that's is interesting is that whereas in 1962, it took the whole might of the BBC to do a transatlantic broadcast. Now we can live broadcast. Now we can all participate in and do live broadcast. So that some of that sort of magic which is associated with live events, like live broadcasting and tuning into them and seeing what happens. It's now possible for us all to do that using equipment that we all have access to. And so that's what we're going to talk about to an extent, is how we can do that, and different examples of how we can do that. So here's some examples of online heritage events. Speyside Wildlife, you can find them on Facebook. So we could just go on to Facebook. Barbados Museum and Historical Society. It's an example of people in the Barbados Museum and Historical Society going around the museum, giving a guided tour live, so that you could tune into that and get access to experts from the museum giving you a tour. In some ways, superior tour to if you turned up at the museum and paid for it in the real world. So that's great. So that's an example of a museum doing a live tour. Here, essentially just using a mobile phone to do that and broadcasting to Facebook. And then the next would be, and this is an example from Speyside Wildlife up in the Highlands. During lockdown, they had tours. I think it was every Friday morning. And one of the great things about doing a social media tour is live event is that it is recorded. So these videos are now, if you go onto the Speyside Wildlife Facebook page, you can see these tours, and the sort of week by week advancement and changes in the scene and scenarios. So that's fantastic too. So then moving on, and this is an example of some of the work that we did. It did a Heritage at Home Edinburgh 1544. So that was doing a live event which had brought together our Heritage at Home events, brought together live tours in terms of walking around with groups of panelists on panels, having discussions, with being able to explore digital reconstructions of the past or examples of digital representations of heritage in a live context, which meant that, and I think this is an important part of doing live events, is that we can get input from the audience, from participants, whether that be people asking questions and making contributions verbally or contributing to the chat or whatever. This to and fro between the presentation of heritage and the audience participation in the heritage provides an important aspect to the sort of live events. So there we go, and then move on. So I think that what I've tried to do there is to provide some motivation as to why we would want to do live events, and I think part of that motivation is just to emphasize is the engagement, is that live events can attract large numbers of people and act as a focus or foci for a social media campaign or for engaging people in heritage. So to provide some motivation for that, and also to look at some examples. And I'm aware that, you know, people here will have engaged in lots of examples themselves. So I guess things would come to mind. I think that the idea here, Jen, was to to go into groups and to maybe have a little bit of discussion of some good examples of live events, but also, like, you know, if you were to organize a live event, what would you like to do? How would you like to organize it? What would you know, your number one live event be? Is that right? I think maybe.
Yes. So we're just going to take the opportunity to get into smaller groups so that you can have maybe some more meaningful chat and get to know other people in the workshop. So I'm going to create some breakout rooms. And as Alan said, it's really to think, what do you aspire to do when it comes to something like broadcasting? Is there an idea you already have? Or is there something that you're wanting to try out? Is there something you've already done that you could maybe share tips and tricks with other people? And again, you know, any examples or good examples that you want to share, not just with the smaller group, but to feed back to us, you can always pop them in the chat. So I will just create a few rooms now. Okay. And they'll be open. So we'll just take maybe about 10 minutes. So just until almost let's round it up to 1:30, okay? Right, so is there anything anybody would like to share from the breakout groups? No, that's okay.
Jen, just a point that I made in the breakout group that I was in, that one of the first couple of live events that we did were through Facebook. But I was just saying to the others that I got a bit of pushback. Quite a few people, for whatever reason, said, well, I'm not on Facebook and I don't want to be on Facebook. Mm-hmm. They just had a bit of reluctance regarding Facebook.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point, Neil. I mean, thinking about how you're going to reach your audiences and what the appropriate format is, isn't it? So not everybody, I mean, I know Facebook, I don't tend to like to do business stuff on Facebook, and I have to sometimes, but yeah, some people might be quite reluctant to do that.
I think, yeah, I definitely think if you're looking at a more educational event, and you know, I work with schools, that's my remit, I would not do something on Facebook for schools. So I suppose it's known who's your audience. You know, we would use something more sort of like Microsoft Teams or something for a school's event. So knowing your audience, and I personally I'm not on Facebook and won't join anything on Facebook because I don't have that profiles. So you know, whereas we could join in Zoom today, and you're not on Zoom as such like you are on Facebook. So it's thinking about who your audience is. But I suppose having different options is quite good.
Yeah, and maybe doing a bit of research in advance and sort of asking around. And Neil, was there more that you wanted to say?
No, really, it was just to make that point, because it was kind of unexpected to me. These were people who were members of our group, so I did feel obliged to move away from Facebook.
Yeah, thanks for that. Does anybody else? I mean, those are very good concerns and good things that you need to take into consideration.
Yeah, some local authorities we're not allowed to use Zoom. I mean, I'm on it today on my phone, but yeah, I work for a local authority. We're not allowed to use Zoom. So that's the frustration thing, because that's, we know the public use Zoom, but we can't use Zoom. So, you know, that's not the public saying they can't use a platform, it's us. Yeah. So somebody said about YouTube, yeah.
I mean, I suppose one of the things is that yeah, there are multiple platforms that it's possible to broadcast to. I think YouTube is probably a bit more open than Facebook, and quite a bit later on, we'll look at how you can broadcast to multiple locations. But I mean, generally, we're going to look at Zoom and Facebook and Instagram as ways of doing it. But also, I suppose to say that if you do something on Facebook, you can record that, and you can then make the recording available on, well, like as we are, we're doing this on Zoom and then making a recording available on YouTube. So that might be a way of spreading the word.
What was useful in our group is the guys who had experience of doing it had some really useful suggestions as to types of equipment and also, you know, costs that you might need. So I found that to be really helpful. So thanks. But it might be useful to be able to share that for people as well as the platforms.
Yeah, okay. We'll talk a little bit about cost of equipment or cost of platforms.
Equipment.
Well, we'll try to cover both for you.
Yeah, magic.
Just as we go forward. So it's good to know that there's.
It helps kind of, you know, because we've just starting off, but it helps kind of assess relative to quality and purpose what kind of investment you need and what's best to use.
Yeah, I mean, there's always different levels. So I mean, I suppose that it's good if you've got kind of like a budget in mind, or you know, to configure it. But I mean, as a general guideline, I think it's really important to have a sort of balanced systems. You know, so don't spend like you know, £1,000 on a microphone and £10 on a camera type thing. So I mean, I think it's good to have the investment spread out. If indeed you're buying new equipment, I mean, we can talk about making the most out of what you've got, but yeah.
Yeah, and Edinburgh World Heritage was saying as well, if you're looking for funding, and actually you can ask for sponsorship for some of these things too. That might be a way of, you know, knowing what the equipment is, what is realistic maybe to put in a bid, but then maybe getting other people to help support you. Even a small amount can actually quite help and get you the tech that you need. This instance, it's a Zoom subscription. And Sam was commenting, there's a live YouTube this morning on the Osprey for Scottish Wildlife Trust. And that does sound, as you said, distracting but enjoyable. So I mean, I think that is the joy of these live things, isn't it? Is that is something in real time that you get to enjoy and sort of take a moment out of your day, and you feel like you're participating in something.
Yeah, and you don't know what's going to happen next. You don't know what's going to go wrong next.
Is that a challenge, Alan?
Yeah, well, okay, yeah, it's a challenge. Okay, so should we potter on? Should we move on? Yeah. So I know. Okay, so that was creating a Facebook event. So yes, it's 100%. Not everybody is on Facebook, and but I think it's possible to do Facebook events that you don't actually have to be on Facebook to see. Or I could be wrong about that. I think I am wrong about that. Okay, but as I say, if you do a Facebook, a lot of people are on Facebook, so that's number one. And it's also it's quite a sort of mainstream thing. You know, the kids on the block are into other stuff. The Facebook profile is how do you call it? It's an aging profile, and it's kind of like becoming more sort of respectable. There's lots of what do you call it, reservations that you might have about Facebook in terms of wasting time, in terms of gathering information and so on. Nonetheless, lots of people are on it, so it is a good way of reaching out to people. And if you do stuff on Facebook, it doesn't have to be exclusively so. There's ways of getting it elsewhere. So, but one of the most effective ways, if you have got a Facebook page, and you know, the truth is, More people are looking at Facebook pages than look at websites at the moment, for example. So there's a good idea as a heritage organisation to have some sort of Facebook presence. So if you do have a Facebook presence, Facebook page, you want to gather likes so that you kind of got a sort of expanding and semi-permanent audience around you. And one of the ways of doing that, of building your presence, is to have events, is to organize events inside of Facebook. And so this is an example of an event that we organized called Heritage at Home, the Lord of the Isles. So we were looking at doing an event around the Lords of the Isles, which is on which is at Finlagan on Islay, off the west coast of Scotland. And you can see here, this event had a reach of 94,000, which actually it's quite good, but it's not huge in Facebook terms. What does that mean? It means on people's Facebook, the advert for the event showed up 94,000 times on people's Facebook feed. So a lot of people would have seen an advertisement for the event. So if we move on, so if you're wanting to create an event, you go to your page menu and you choose events from that, and then you get something like this comes up, which this shows some of the live events that we were involved with actually last year. But so you can see all of the events, you can see what the reach was and the responses, and then if you click on create event, then you get this page comes up where you get to create a new event, and it's a pretty straightforward thing to do. So you can add an image or a video. It's best to add a little video, but an image will do, which will be associated with the event. You give it a name and you give it a description, and you move on to the next page. And then there's a bunch of things that you can do with it. So for example, define when it's going to start, when it's going to end, associate it with some categories, and then co-host. So this co-hosting is important because it means you get to choose what organizations are going to co-host with you. So for example, whenever I put on an event or associated with an event, I'll co-host it with the University of St Andrews, who've got something like 70,000 likes. So that guarantees a certain level of coverage, but also maybe would ask Museums and Heritage Highland, if we were doing an event with museum in the Highlands, ask them to like it as well, or Expo North. So if there are organizations that you are associated with or that might be interested in an event, you can ask them to co-host, and that means it will appear to the people who they know and like them, and will help spread it. So then you go on. You can add lots of details, so you can add a schedule and keywords and the like. Let people know when and where things are happening. So I mean, an event might be have several kind of like mini events inside of it. Next. Yeah, and next. So once you've got your event set up and people that have co-hosted it, then you can, how do you then go about advertising this? How do you then go about letting people know about it? So you see here that there's a share button. So if you click on the share button, there's different ways that you can share it. So you can share it on a page that you manage. So if there are other pages that you've got, then you can share it to those. But importantly, you can share it in a group. So Facebook has lots of groups that are associated with it that have members who share a common interest, you know. And so if your event is on a topic for which there are groups, then if you share the event into the group, then you know that all the people in that group are going to know about the event and maybe come to it. So that's a good way of spreading the word about an event. Obviously share it onto your own timeline. You can share it onto friends' timelines and the like. So yeah, that's good. And then next. Once you sign up to go to an event, or once anybody signs up to go to an event, you can invite up to 250 of your friends to come to it as well. And that's a good idea to do that. So you just invite your friends and then maybe they will come along. But also if there's other people in your organization who are coming, they can invite their friends and off you go, and you can spread the word in that way. Obviously there are some issues there about the crossover between professional stroke interest lives and your kind of social lives. So it may be, or it certainly should be the case that no one should ever have compunction put upon them to share across their personal feeds. But nonetheless, if people feel so inclined, it can be an effective way of letting people know about the events. If we go on.
Alan, there's a question about creating events. Do you know, can you create sort of an overarching series with events nested beneath that? You know, there are sort of mini events within one wider event. Do you know if that's possible?
Yeah, it is possible. You create an event, and then the schedule. Then you can set up a schedule. This is happening at 9 o'clock. This is happening at 10 o'clock.
Right, so it's the schedule that delineates all those smaller events.
This is happening at 12 o'clock, yeah. And then you could then put links into the schedule for those events. And that's a way also of combining together, virtual events, combining together real world events with virtual events. So you might have a day on Save Our Coast. You might have a Save Our Coasts Day, so from 9 till 11 the event is cleaning the beach, and 11 till 12 in the conference room there's a discussion with local experts about the state of crustacea on the east coast of Scotland, and then at 1 o'clock you've got a sort of international forum with speakers from around the world that are happening live. And so you could put all of those into your schedule, and then create, if you wanted to, sub events, or you create events for each of those which link to the overarching event.
Mm-hmm. And when you're sharing these events to groups, you have to be part of those groups in order to share it, or can you share from out with a group?
The rules on sharing vary depending upon whether the group is private or is public. But I mean, my advice would be that, again, if you're having a social media profile, to join groups that are appropriate or relevant to what your page is, so that you build up a bank of groups that you are in, that you can share into, and also you will also then get references back to yourself about what other people are doing, and so be part of a network. So
okay, thank you.
Yeah, but if you're a member, the thing is, if you're a member of the group, then it's going to be easier to share into it. If for no other reason, then you'll know that the group exists and how to contact it. As in, when you go share to groups, you'll get a list of groups that you're in that you can share into.
Okay, thanks.
That's all right. Well, thanks a lot for the question. That was really helpful. And then, yes, okay, so we've talked a bit about sharing here, so we just move on. Boom, 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 boom. On the slide. So this is an example of this group where it is hosted by Open Virtual Worlds, Armadale Castle, University of St Andrews, Finlaggan Trust. So the fact that all those organizations are hosting it means it's going to figure prominently in their news feeds, and people who like those organizations or have expressed an interest in them are going to find out about this this event. Hence the quite good figures of 94.2 thousand. Yep, next please. Okay, so but once you've got an event, you know, how do we go about setting up with a live webcam? So as I said, there's lots of different ways in which we can do live broadcasting, but one of which is kind of what we're doing now, which is we're sat at a computer, or I'm sat at a computer with a webcam and a speaker talking. So essentially kind of like in a studio. So how do we go live in that kind of scenario? So if we just kind of like go on. So yeah, in the it's easy for people to find you if you've got a web page, and that web page has got a username. So we've got this at openvirtualworlds.org, at openvirtualworlds. So if we're going to do something on Facebook, having that at openvirtualworlds makes it easier for people to find us. That's good. Go on. And so this is me, and about to go live. So we've gone to the live section, and we're just, if I click on that button there, it says saying go live now, then that will automatically create a live event for us. So if we just go back one, sorry, back. No, you can't. Okay, go on. Yeah, keep going down. So that's great. So this is on the page, on the Open Virtual Worlds page that we created. We've got these options to choose from, and so live cam, start screen share, or do a default microphone. So if we do the live cam onto social media, then that will work from here. Okay.
And is that where you create the URL to share, or where do you create the URL? So before you're going to go live to do your promotions, where is that URL created?
Well, you see the URL here, https www.facebook.com/www.testlive. Okay, so that is
That's going to be your live feed, so you can share that in advance. It's not going to change.
Yep.
Right. Thank you.
Yeah, you can share that. You can share that in advance. And this is me being live at that point in time. So yeah, if we go on to the next one. So this is just showing the live feed, if you like, taking place. And then the live video is ended. So you can delete the video and return to the page, or you can keep the video, in which case it will be posted onto OVW and then anybody can go and see it there. So that's great. And then if you want to, you can then create a watch party and show it again. Right, next one. And then you can add various videos to that watch party, so you can have a queue and you can see lots of them, and then you can share that into groups as well. So if we go on next. Yeah, and next. Thanks. And so the actual mechanics of doing this through Facebook aren't difficult, but there are some issues that are worth investigating, are worth doing. So worth talking about, sorry. Maybe we just switch on to my, I was wondering, Ian, do you want to just show the, because it got a little bit, not wasn't quite as clear as I wanted it from the slides. Do you want to just show a Facebook page and just taking a camera on live?
While we're swapping over, there's a couple of questions about a watch party. So first of all, what is a watch party? Is that just where you're watching things all together in real time? You're re-showing something?
A watch party is when you have a video that you've created in a live scenario and you show it again.
But it's sort of an interactive. So I get why would you do a watch party? What are the benefits?
I was just checking because I hadn't done one for a while, and actually they in 1920 watch party became an instrumental tool to bring people together as the lockdowns around the world started. And so you would show a video, and you would have a commentary. So there would be a chat around it, so you could all watch it together. Unfortunately, we probably should scrap those slides because Facebook scrapped the watch party feature on April the 16th, 2021. So I do apologize for that. So the watch party was a great idea, but it doesn't exist again. It doesn't exist now. Sorry, Ian, so if you just go back one. So yeah, so if you're on this, so here's your page, and you see halfway down the page there's a live button. So if you click on the live button there, that's great. So that then takes you to here, which gives you the ability to create a live event. And so if you've got the go live on the left hand side, so you just click next. Okay, and then click on use camera. Yep. And then click on next. You need to allow access to camera, which may be because Ian is already using how many cameras have you got?
Just the one connected currently. So yeah, that's why I can't. It's not working because I'm already showing my face.
So
I'll try stopping showing my face on Zoom and see if I can get it to work. Yeah, there we are.
There you go. Well, you click next. When you click next again. Okay. And you're not live yet, though, are you? Please add a live description. Where does it description?
Yeah.
We're sending this to a Facebook page called OVW Tests, which we set up just explicitly so that we could do tests and so on without anybody seeing it or being involved with it. Okay. And now you're live. So could you put the URL to the live thing in the chat, Ian?
Wait a second. I will just. No, don't end the live thing. What are we doing? No. they've moved the link. I'm just not seeing it.
Okay, it's okay, I got it.
Okay, good.
So I just put into the, it's facebook.com/OVW test/live. And so if I just go to the chat. And if you're interested, if you go to the chat there, which I've just put the link into the chat, and you can see Ian broadcasting there. It would be good to get some people to, I mean, if you could look at the chat and click on it. I'm not quite sure what your problem is. It's Facebook. Well, in fact, if you look at the chat, Ian, and click on that button, click on the link in the chat. Yeah, the Zoom chat. Okay. So there you go. And you see some of us are already starting to watch it. And so we essentially, with the sort of setup that you've all got with a camera and a microphone and a Facebook page, it's, you know, Ian's typed 2 sentences and clicked on like 5 buttons or something like that, and is now broadcasting to Facebook. Okay.
And Alan and Ian, maybe this is something you might get to a little bit later, but so in this instance right now, we are on Zoom and also broadcasting live. So is this something you can do? You can be broadcasting across multiple platforms at the same time?
Yeah, I mean, we will come to it, but you can use Zoom to broadcast into Facebook.
Right.
So there's just a couple of settings to set. And then this thing that we're doing now, where we're talking amongst ourselves, will also appear on a Facebook page. So it's a good way of getting webinar functionality. So on Zoom, right? If you to get an account, it's about £12, £13 a month, and then you can have up to 100 people chatting. But if you want to have webinar functionality, whereby we're all in this together, right, talking to each other in a webinar, we wouldn't be able to see the people who are in the webinar, and they wouldn't be able to talk, but they could chat and they could ask questions. So that's the functionality you get from Facebook by free by connecting Zoom up to Facebook. You get that for free. Zoom charge £40 a month for it, or thereabouts, for up to 100. But with Facebook, you can have a infinite number of people that are doing this. Oh yeah, so this is so what we're doing here, what we just did there, which essentially is take somebody broadcast into Facebook, right? So we're kind of doing it the other way around from what I described. So what Ian is using his camera to broadcast into Facebook, and then we're using that. We're putting that in to Zoom via screen sharing. Okay, so that's a really good way of combining somebody walking around with their phone, talking to their phone. Right, it's easy to connect that to Facebook or to Instagram. So you connect it to Facebook or to Instagram, and then whoever's running the webinar, right, can then patch that into the webinar. So you can have this combination of, imagine Ian was wandering around with his phone on the outside, him doing that, broadcasting into Facebook, but we can then patch that into this Zoom conference so that we combine together sort of a roaming reporter with a panel discussion of experts or something like that. So yeah, I think that it's really quite straightforward for each of the platforms to get them live. It starts to become interesting when you could combine them together in different ways, and you can then cope with a lot of different scenarios. So yeah, I think that's quite nice that we can see Ian in his and also Ian, if you could make your screen full screen, you could expand it to full screen. Yeah, so you and then if you hit F11, yeah. So now, but this is a Facebook broadcast. It's not being patched into Zoom, so that we can all see it. Okay, so that's great. Thanks a lot. How are we doing for questions? But we did want to talk a bit more about this sort of desktop setup for doing webinars and other things. And so if we go back to the PowerPoint thing. Yeah, so the first thing is to try to get straight what some of the broadcasting issues might be. And I've got a list of 6 here. You may be able to add more to them. But we need to think about connectivity and bandwidth, lighting, sound, the visuals, isolation, and redundancy. Okay, and so we'll talk about those as we go through it. But first of all, next slide, connectivity and bandwidth. So before trying to do a live broadcast, or which is attracting an audience, where you're trying to engage an audience, it's good to know what your connectivity capabilities are. And so one of the things that you can do is you can go to this address, www.speedtest.net, okay, and test out your system. See what your ping time is, what your download Mbps is, and what your upload Mbps is. And you'll be able to understand that in relation to the ADSL characteristics. Okay, so that's all a bit garbledy. So your ping time is the amount of time that it takes for you to do something and to get a response. So 17 milliseconds isn't much. So that means that this is actually Ian's. His connectivity, with that respect, with the responsiveness or the delay or the lag, right, is quite low. Anything below 50 is pretty good. Anything above 150 starts to become pretty problematic in terms of interfering with what you're doing. So you want to have a low ping time. And you've got your download megabits per second and your upload megabits per second. So to put it into context, an HD, high definition media stream may be what, 4 or 5 megabits per second. It depends a little bit on the compression. No, probably less than that. 2 or 3 megabits per second. Ian, am I?
Yeah, I mean, what you're streaming to Facebook's usually about 2.5. It's usually less than 3 and more than 2. Okay,
so we're talking about that's not HD though. That's about 720p. But that's what we want to be at actually. So you need to watch. You will need to watch how much bandwidth you're using when you're doing your broadcasting. But for a guideline figure, 2 or 3 megabits per second is the actual bandwidth that is going to be required. And you want your system to be able to handle, I would say, twice that in order to have an expectation that the tech side of things is going to go smoothly. Okay. Now download is I did this ADSL, asynchronous. I forgot what it is now. Asynchronous digital subscriber line, ADSL. And what that means is that downloads, when stuff is coming into you, you get higher bandwidth than upload when you're pushing stuff out. Most of the time, you're downloading stuff, and this 49 and that's the headline figure. You know, when you subscribe to BT or whatever, they'll say we're giving you 20 megabits per second or 50 megabits per second or 100 megabits per second. That's the figure, the headline figure, the download that they're talking about there. Now, doing this test will tell you what actually you're getting, rather than what they're claiming you're going to get. So that's good to know. And two, download it's not what we're worried about. What we're worried about is upload, because we're broadcasting, so we're sending stuff out, we're putting things into the system. And here Ian's got 8.1 megabits per second. Okay, so that's okay, because we reckon we're going to need 2 or 3, and so between 5 and 6 is what we're wanting, and Ian's got 8. So we're pretty confident that we're clear with that, and we're going to be able to do what we want. But if you're an organization and you're doing a broadcast, you may want to check different locations or different people to see who've got the best systems and use them as your kind of hub, or playing the sort of role that Ian is playing now, rather than somebody who's got less. Okay, so this all sounds a little bit technical, but it's just worthwhile checking this. Okay.
And when you're doing live broadcasting, are you able to choose what your bandwidth is? So are you able to pick between 720, or if you know you've got an amazing connection, you can actually do HD? Are you able to do that?
Not really. You can, you could choose between your landline and using the mobile. You could choose between whether we're going to do it from my house or from your house or from Ian's house, right? If we're broadcasting some video or stuff like that. But you can't really say to the system, "Oh, give me more bandwidth now, please." I mean, there are ways of doing that, but you'd starting to talk about paying large amounts of money to get that sort of adaptive.
But can you make it smaller rather than larger? So if you are on your mobile and you want it to be sort of a smaller, what you're uploading, can you set the quality lower?
Yeah, right. Yeah. So there's 2 things here. There's the system that you're using to deliver the stuff backwards and forwards, and so that's kind of a given. And then you can then make decisions about. So if you know that you're only going to be able to manage 2 megabits per second, maximum, then yes, absolutely, you can adapt the media that you're sending to make it smaller. And in fact, that's something that's well worthwhile looking at, because, for example, one of the first kind of like live thing that I did was with Time Span Museum, and we tried to broadcast some video, and I was broadcasting a video at HD. Okay, and Facebook doesn't really like HD. High definition is when you have 1,920 dots along the top, and 1,000 going up and down. So it's 1920 by 1080, like that. But Facebook does 720 by whatever it is. No, it's 720p, so it's 1,300 by 700, something like that. So significantly smaller. That's the maximum. When we switched from HD to 720p, everything worked magically, no problem at all. So if you're having bandwidth issues, yes, you can adapt the media that you're sending into the network. But you probably want to know about that in advance, rather than trying to do it, because it might involve transcoding a video. It might involve changing the settings, but you want to have your system, your media and your system set up so that it works appropriately with the bandwidth that you have available to you. So that's why you want to test before, so you know what your environment is that you're working with, and therefore what you can send into it.
Okay, thank you. So practice, and you can change that setting.
Yeah, I think so. But I would say that, if you're an organization and you're wanting to do a live event, and you want to have one place or one person who is, who is at the hub of that, who is kind of like putting things on and off. You may have other people coming in and chatting, but you've got them at the hub. Make sure that they've got an upload of 8 megabits per second or greater, I would say. And if they haven't, consider using a different location or doing something about it. But anyway, it's good to know. So The second thing in relation to this, in terms of bandwidth, is plug in. Is that, if you know, oh, I've got issues with my Wi-Fi, so don't use Wi-Fi. Okay, every hub that's connecting you to the outside world, you'll be able to plug an Ethernet cable into, and then you'll be able to plug that Ethernet cable into your computer or your laptop. And it's a good idea to do that. I mean, if it's your personal thing and you're kind of like coming into something like this and chatting and so on, okay, don't worry about it. But if you're going to do a broadcast and there's going to be people coming in and listening to you, you want to have the best, most stable system that you can. And so plugging in like that is a really good idea to do. It cuts out the Wi-Fi. Automatically, it's going to make your systems more reliable, and it's going to mean that the thing that is plugged in is going to have priority over everything else that is going on in your house. So if somebody is doing some video conference on Wi-Fi in this room, then you're probably not going to suffer nearly as much from it. So it's a good guarantee. If you are the place where you want to do this stuff for other reasons is not near where the router is, then don't despair. There's this thing called IP over power, where it costs about £40. Costs about £40, and you can plug it into a power socket and plug it into a power socket near your router, and then you can plug your laptop or your thingy into the power into the thing that you've put into your power socket. Okay, does that make sense? So you plug in by the router, you plug in by your computer, and you connect both of those up using Wi-Fi. Sorry, there was a question there about that I saw come.
Yeah, there's a question about Facebook Live. So if the task is going to be doing Facebook Live out and about in the community, so not having the chance to be plugged in, so presumably from a mobile. So how would you check that that is going to be good enough quality? Is that something that you need to go out and do some tests, or is there a diagnostic you can do right when you go out?
Okay, so you'll be using. So Sam, I'm assuming that what you're saying is you're using a mobile phone. You're wandering around using a mobile phone. How do you test what your connectivity is going to be? Well, on the mobile phone, you can still use this www.speedtest.net with a web browser. So that will give you the numbers. And the other thing that you can do is like I said, like Jen, I think just said, is that you can practice it. So, if you're going to be walking down the high street at 11 o'clock on a Monday, then try walking down the high street at the 11 o'clock on the Monday before, doing the same thing and seeing what you get, and you'll start to get a feel for what works and what doesn't work and how much you need to test to find out. And then depending upon your testing, you can decide whether you actually want to do it live or whether you want to record it previously and show it as part of a live show. Does that help?
Thank you. Those are good suggestions.
Yeah. So the power over IP is costs you about 40 quid, and that's what I use. And things still go wrong, but it's a lot better than it was when I was trying to use Wi-Fi. Power line, yeah, there you go. That's an example. Thank you. So we then move on to that. Who's that character? So this is my setup. It's it's not very tidy. It probably tells you something about my personality more than anything else. However, I've got a desk, so I've got a surface, so that's good. And look, the window is in front of me, so I got all this light coming at me. I'm not using any artificial light at the moment, okay? But I'm front lit. You want to be front lit because you just want people to be able to see you. You know, I mean, video probably isn't as important as sound, but nonetheless, you know, why not? And you can see I've got like a couple of I've got an LED light up in the right, so I can switch that on to get bright light. And I've got a small I've got a daylight lamp in a lamp, so I can have two coming at me from different directions, which helps with shadows to light me up properly. And I can change the color temperature on one of them, which will mean that I can make the light, I can adjust the tone of the light, whether it's harsh or whatever. If we go back up, Ian, back up, yeah, and one more. Yeah, that's great. And so these are some, again, apologies. Behind me is a bit of a mess. And so that's very sort of unprofessional. So if you're wanting to be professional, as we should all aspire to, it's a good idea to get one of these background, I don't know, Catherine, what's the word for them? Background screens. Okay, so you can get green screen, so green or blue, and this is white and black. So I can put them behind, I can put those behind me, and that isolates things very nicely. And if I shine bright lights on them, then I can use the backgrounds that Zoom gives you. You know, Zoom gives you all these different backgrounds that you can play around with and use, but usually it takes out big chunks of your body when you're moving around and makes you look really weird. If you put one of these behind you and shine bright lights on it, then those background things start to work really well, and they close up quite closely around you. So that's something that, particularly if you're wanting, you know, I don't know. Yeah, so that gives you control over your background, bright lights and a screen, and then you can put in whatever background you want to do. Okay, so that's great on that, Ian. So lighting. So yeah, let's be front lit. Let's have, back one, please. Let's have, you'll see I've got a microphone there. So, and I can, oh, come on. How can it, oh, is it like the camera I'm using? Okay. I thought I was on a different camera. I'm sorry about that. Yeah, so I've got a microphone, and with a pop shield on it, there's lights, and there's lighting, and I've got a solid surface for it. So they're the main components there. And obviously we need to have cameras. So then moving on. Thanks a lot. So with the equipment, it's good to have a good microphone. That Samsung one there, that's a nice camera. That Samsung, sorry, that's a portable camera, so it will work with you on the move. It's a USB camera. It costs about £45. This is another USB camera. So this costs about 80 or 90 pounds. Has a nice sound on it. I think that's similar to the one that, Catherine, are you using this at the moment?
Yes. Okay, you can now hear the Rode NT-USB Mini. Is that what it is? Yeah.
So we've got this one for Ian to use in the future. So having USB microphones are a good idea. I think that, you know, again, you know, if you're doing a video conference, it's about communication. And if you're wanting to communicate with somebody, they have to be able to hear what you're saying. Now the internet, there's no point spending thousands of pounds, because the balance system thing, the internet's going to interfere, so you're never going to get perfect sounds. But spending 40 to 100 pounds on a microphone, if you're going to be doing this on a regular basis, seems like a good investment for an organization to have, because it's going to help you get your message across. If you can capture the sound clearly, put it into the pipes, and people are going to be able to hear it clearly. And you're not wanting to make your audience work, and you're wanting to close the gap between their experience of a professional broadcast and their experience of your broadcast. And so one of the ways of doing that is to invest a little bit into your in equipment for it. So computers pretty much, any reasonably model computer is going to be able to handle video conferencing, audio and sound without too much difficulty. So I would, and then cameras. Well, there's two ways to go. So one way to go is to have a webcam. So the one that I've got is a Logitech, which does HD video and up. So that is quite nice. That cost about £80 or something. C922 Pro Stream webcam. And I'm still on. So what I did there was I switched from one camera to another camera. And this camera is actually is like a video camera. And so what I've done is I've taken out the HDDR, taken the stream that's coming out of the camera, HDMI, and plugged it into a switch. So this ATEM Mini switch here, which means that, and I've not really got it probably set up, but it means that I can just press and switch between things. The other things I've got are black at the moment, so it's not perhaps the best demonstration, but I could in theory just switch at the top of a button from one camera, from one view to another view. So I might be showing a video on one and doing commentary on another, and kind of switch between them. So this ATEM Mini, if you're wanting to kind of like move into more of a kind of studio type environment, that takes 4 inputs plus another 2 audio inputs, which you can switch between at will, and that costs about £300. The Focusrite thing that I've got down here, I'm also using that, and I'm plugging that. What that enables me to do, that plugs into my USB, but it enables me to plug any microphone, any normal microphone into it. So not a USB microphone, but a microphone that people might use at a concert or something like that. I can just plug that into the Focusrite, and then from the Focusrite I can plug into the USB and then put it into there. So that's what I'm using at the moment to do the sound side of things. So I can use a directional mic or a lapierre mic or whatever I want to do on it. And that Focusrite thing costs about 130, and the microphones can cost anything between 50 and up to thousands of pounds. One of the things that I've tried to do with this setup is to have some built-in redundancy. Okay, so what I mean by that is if like one thing fails, I've got a fallback. So if one camera goes, I can use the other camera. If one sound thing goes, I can use the other sound thing. If the network goes, I'm kind of like a bit messed up, but I could use my mobile to do the broadcasting. If the computer breaks, there's another computer that I can kind of like plug into. So I mean, possibly, you know, if you're doing you're just tuning into stuff, doesn't matter so much. But if you've got a big broadcast coming up, and you're expecting 1,000 people to tune into it, or a lot of people, it's important for your organization in some way. Redundancy is worthwhile considering. You know, what happens if A breaks? What happens if B breaks? What happens if C breaks? And it's a good idea to have some sort of cheap or lower quality backup, so you're not completely disconnected and so on. So even with all of the testing and everything, you can't assume that everything is going to work, right? Something is not going to, at some point, something is not going to work. So how do you go about trying to recover from that? And so redundancy is a good word to think about. You know, maybe it doesn't matter. Maybe, you know, if I'm just sitting here chatting, right? Maybe it doesn't matter if you can't see me, if my video breaks, as long as you can still hear me. So you make that decision. You say, well, okay, so what does happen if my microphone breaks? let's make sure I've got 2 ways in which I can have a live mic going with you. So it's just worth thinking about it, I think. Yeah, so it would be good to take, actually, if there's any kind of questions about setup and equipment, because it's kind of like a big topic. And
Yeah, any technical questions about setup for Alan?
oh, isolation. It's a Joy Division song. But what I meant by isolation is like, you know, stopping the kids from banging a drum next to your ear, or just so that, you know, the recording environment, external sounds and external you know, visuals can't interfere with what you're trying to do. Yeah. So just trying to make it so that you know, the washing machine isn't going at the same time as the kettle going and the hoovering, you know, or if those things are happening, then you've got some sort of soundproofing or something like that. So some planning to make sure that it's kind of quiet, and some that you're, yeah, the screen gives me isolation, so you're not seeing all of the background stuff that's there that can kind of distract you. Okay, thanks a lot for that. Thanks a lot for that question. For another one.
Alan, do you think after we can take a few more questions, but might be a good point to have a very quick break? Because I don't know about everybody else, but I could use just a stretch.
Yeah, that would be good. That would be a good idea, I think.
Okay, so we'll take a few more questions. So Simon's asking, do you have any recommendations for a lapel mic or something similar for a walking speaker?
I think the Rode lapel mics are generally pretty good. Lavia.
Like, this is now just show and tell.
Yeah. Sorry, that's quite a nice one, which is what is it? Simple lavalier mic. You don't have to spend the earth on a lapel mic, but you can. Oh. I'm sorry, I'm sure I had one here. Oh, I'm sure I had one. Let's get a new lapel mic. Oh, this is the one that we use. So it's kind of Rode Link. So it has the advantage of being wireless. So I can plug in at one end and then it will broadcast to the other end. Rode Link is quite good. But you know, you if you've got an iPhone, that might work quite well, or you can probably get something, a Bluetooth mic that will connect to your iPhone, that will let you do it. So yeah, I think if you spend 15 or 20 pounds up, it's worthwhile. Much less than that, and you've probably got problems with equipment, problems with quality. Yeah, absolutely. We'll put in equipment links when we send the recordings out to you. That's fine to do that. Also, you'll note that there's quite a lot of overlap here from the what we did with galleries and what we did with video sessions, because this is kind of like live video. So the main thing that's kind of added in here is the networking stuff. Do we have any more slides in this section, Ian? Yeah, not, and the next, I think we were just kind of like, yeah. So we were. If there aren't any more questions, we've kind of looked at the mechanics.
Actually, if we go back to the equipment screen very briefly, there's a question: what are the bottom center of the screen? Is that the Wi-Fi signal boost?
That's Chromecast.
Oh, sorry, Chromecast.
Okay, so what the Chromecast lets you do, if you've got something that will let you plug HDMI, i.e. the output from a webcam, into your computer, which which the Atem Mini does, or you can get other devices that do that, that accept that. Then the Chromecast is designed for letting you see what's on your mobile phone on a screen. Okay, so if you plug the Chromecast into an Atem Mini or into some other video capture device, and then route it into your video broadcasting software, whether that be Facebook or Zoom, then you can live broadcast what's on your screen, what's on your mobile phone screen. Now, I know you can do that anyway, like you can use your mobile to connect to Facebook, but by doing it this way, you've got the opportunity of kind of like switching from your PowerPoint slide to showing what's going on your mobile phone to showing what's happening on something else, so you can switch between these different inputs. So that Chromecast makes it dead easy to use your mobile phone as an input into a switcher like the ATM Mini, and therefore incorporate it in your sort of broadcast environment.
And what's to the left of that on your slide?
Okay, to the left of that is the IP over power. Okay, so what that the smallest one, you plug that into your into a plug nearby to your router, and then the other two you put into rooms where you want to have a strong wireless signal. Okay, and then you see at each of them, those two have wireless signal, but also you can plug in directly. So you plug the small one into your router using Ethernet cable, and you plug the other two. Then you've got two sockets on the other two that you can plug computers in. So you can put one beside your bed, and you can put one beside your desk, and then you can always plug your computer into the wire, and you're starting to eliminate sort of wireless. And so that's really handy if you've got, you know, really thick walls, stuff like that. I mean, there are alternatives. I mean, there's this sort of, you know, Wi-Fi everywhere alternatives that BT offer and stuff like that, but they sometimes cost £300 to £400 to do, whereas that's going to cost you 40 quid.
Right, thank you.
But it's a good way of kind of like getting wired Ethernet in your house on the cheap.
Okay, well, how about we have a brief 10-minute break then, so everybody can top up on cups of tea, or all you poor people with jumpers on can get another layer if you're still chilly. Right, I'll pause the recording. Let's reconvene in 10 minutes. So about 2:48, all right? Okay, welcome back for our second part. Oh, Alan, you're muted.
That's great. Thank you very much. And so there's some coverage there of doing a Facebook event, of going live with Facebook, and also of having fixed setup at a desk by a window and so on. But I mean, the second kind of sort of roaming reporter mode is something that Catherine's going to talk to us about. And it's very, very important. And we kind of accidentally strayed into showing you how to connect those two things up as well, which is good. So going live with the phone.
Well, you did talk a little bit about connecting as well to Facebook to Instagram, and I'll talk about it going the other way too with mobile. But yeah, that you don't necessarily have to have the formalized setup with your webcam. However, you can with your mobile phone. So we'll talk about that. So I'm going to talk about more in depth about Instagram live streaming. I know Instagram is also a Facebook entity, but just as a different platform, there are also, you could do TikTok has live features, Facebook itself, you can do a live video from your mobile phone. So lots of them that you can do. So go ahead, Ian. Okay, so we're just going to go through like what are the benefits and then also how to do it. So Instagram specifically, you're probably going to have a different audience, similar but maybe different audience to then if you had Facebook or just on YouTube or any kind of other social platform. So you knowing your audience, you kind of dictate what you're going to present, what platform, what are you going to do, what can you do, as well as just a video recording. So with Instagram specifically, it's really good you can collaborate with other users. So as if your organization maybe had an Instagram account and you wanted to do a live with another organization or an individual, you can do that pretty easily on mobile. And yep, I'm going to talk about these. You can do fundraising and charity. Let's see, yeah. So kind of like the same thing with the Facebook is by creating an event, though you can't create an event for a live Instagram, but you can use your platform, whether it's stories or your newsfeed, to advertise it and say, I'm going to go live at this point in time. We're chatting with this person, or we're chatting about so-and-so, come join at this time. And when you go live, your followers will get a notification as long as they have notifications on for Instagram, but they'll get a notification pushed to their phone saying that you're going live. So, and that's where you can get kind of both audience types, so somebody who's planned to come to your event and also to somebody who is just on Instagram and gets that notification and says, ooh, that's interesting. Let me see what they're doing. So go ahead, Ian. Next one. So how to do it. So it's a little bit different now since they've updated, but you go up, there's a plus button at the top of your newsfeed screen. And that's kind of where you access all your different methods of creating content on Instagram. So one of them is live, and you just kind of slide over to the live button and you get this screen that's on the presentation. You can choose a title, just like you can title your event. You can throw filters on. And you can also do donations for charity. So let's say you want to do a fundraising event, you can do it through Instagram and have it be exact or accessed right there, so people can donate money like right when they're on the live. So then you choose your title. You could choose those settings, tap and build the circle in the middle to start, and then that's when your followers get a notification. Okay, next slide. So the different things you can do while on live Instagram is you can well, one, you can be anywhere. So you can be set up somewhere where maybe you have a similar setup as like Alan was talking about with your studio or with your webcam, and having lighting and having equipment and to make it a bit presentable. Or you could be out in the field, and that's the benefit of it as well. So you can flip your camera, so you can have it looking at you. You can live flip your camera back over to your rear facing camera or your front facing camera. You can add the guest user as you're on the live as well. You can send an invite. You can send an invite to a specific user to just join the live as well, or to share the live. People can ask questions, so then you can answer them as you're going on. You can then push it, like Alan was saying about pushing to Instagram. You can then send it to Facebook or to another platform while it's going live. Copy the link, and so you can send it to somebody. And then if you have an Apple device, you can pull, which I'm not absolutely sure, I'm pretty sure it's only iOS, but you can pull photos and videos from your camera roll. So that's the image there on the right, is being able to be in the live, have that dialog box inset, but then showing other content as well, not necessarily just the live content, which is great. You can also turn off commenting. You can turn off any requests. You can turn off questions. You can kick somebody out if you want. But you can, and then you can also hide a story from a user, or only have it for your close friends, because there's a close friend option on Instagram. And then you can see at the top, you can see like how many views you're getting, that you are live. And okay, go ahead next, Ian. Yep, so when you're kind of finishing up, you can see the users who watched your live video when you end it. It's good to grab a screenshot if you can, just to be able to get those numbers. But you can also, so you can save it. So you can save it to your phone's gallery, or you can save it to what's called IGTV, which is the longer video mode on Instagram. So then it can be saved to your profile, so somebody else can go to your account, look at all your IGTV videos, and pull up that recorded live to go back to, or you can discard it. So whichever you'd like to do. Yes. So, and that's pretty much as a very similar format too for going live, obviously with Facebook Live and from your mobile, but also with another platform. If you're doing like Periscope or TikTok, you can do that, but it's all about as well your strategy to market it and advertise it. So then you do get the viewers, but then also, which is what you see with like Facebook or any other, Twitch or any other kind of live streaming, but from a desktop, is a lot of the views happen after. So you get the follow-up views, not just the live views. So go next. I don't know if I had another slide. Yep, so same thing with Facebook. I kind of spoke about this. Yes, so you can see your donation stats. I think they will be, because I have not done a live where I would had donations, so I was, being able to look through and try to see, but you will be able to see donation stats. And it can be obviously for yourself, or it can be for another charity, and you can search, there's a search function in Instagram to be able to find a charity. So I imagine that search is pulling from charities maybe listed on Facebook or somewhere. I'm not really sure where that's pulling from. But yeah, you should be able to see that in the end. So, and same thing with the Facebook, using the app. And that's the thing too, is that if you're trying to use the web, just through the web browser, I'm not sure you'll have the same functionalities to do the live. So you would need the app. And same with Instagram. The Instagram web browser, or the web page, is not, you can't add anything. It is for viewing only. It's all app based. Go next, Ian. I don't know what's next. Oh yeah. So you can do it ad hoc. You can do it outside. You can do it just on the go, wherever you are. But also, if you wanted to do it sit down, and I've known quite a few of my friends that have done it for their businesses and other things, where you do want to, same setup, you want to have yourself lit, steady camera. So for your mobile phone, you want to have it at a good angle. So the good idea, or the best idea, is really to have it on some kind of stand with an adapter, so then it's steady and you can adjust it and it stays the same the whole time. And then you can get different add-ons like a ring light or a better microphone or something like that. So not necessary, but it's yeah, you can do that as well. Highly recommend. Cool. You can see what else. I don't think. I think that was my slides.
Can I ask a question that was
Sure.
submitted? So what about, are there any safety concerns when you're doing social media broadcasting? So, you know, we're all worried about Zoom bombing and making sure that the people that are attending are that. So is it, you know, can people, I know you said you can collaborate and you can invite somebody to come in on your broadcast. Is that something that sort of be, I don't know, hacked, or can you have somebody come in that isn't supposed to be there?
Well, you can have somebody come in if they're a follower. So if one of your followers comes in and let's say it's a spam bot or something, yes, technically, but you can remove them right then and there. So it's just more of like, you see their name and you go kick out or remove. I think it's remove.
And when you're doing a live broadcasting on social media, you can't restrict the audience, or can you?
So with Instagram, you have an option for close friends. So you can signify what group of people are your close friends. So let's say if you wanted to do a live, but only do it to maybe like, I don't know, just a select group that you've delineated as your close friends, you can't make other groups like that. That's one way to restrict it, but then also maybe that's not the best platform then you should be using. If you wanted maybe something to be only selective for a few people, then that's something that maybe you should be on like Zoom or Teams or where they have a link. This is more about a wider broadcast and then you can turn off comments as well. So if you don't want comments and then you end up not running the risk of anybody bombing your content or your comments. So it's just a bit of finding that platform that works best for what you're wanting to do. So it's kind of reaching the audience, but then also, yeah, who are you? What are you trying to speak about? And then figuring out which platform that's going to be best on. So,
thanks.
Welcome. I think that was my bit.
Oh, okay, great.
Has anybody ever used the donation? I know, Catherine, you said that you haven't done that, but I don't know if anybody else has. So can you see like the donation stats live? I don't know. Has anybody in the group tried that out before? I haven't. No. Maybe we'll find out.
I'm not sure if it's because I know with Facebook, when you donate to a fundraiser, you can choose whether people see what you donated. I'm not absolutely sure if that's the same option in Instagram or if it's something that happens live. Like because what happens, you can when you like or when you comment, that comes up live to everybody and everybody can see it. And I'm wondering if that also happens, the donation happens live. I'll actually look, I'm not sure. Live donations.
Might be something that we just all have to experiment with and report back.
Yep, I'll have a look and report back.
Thank you.
Okay, so how to host a webinar is the next thing. So that's we've done Facebook sitting down, we've done Facebook on the roof. So then hosting a webinar, which is essentially what we're doing now. So if we move on, there's lots of different platforms for doing this. And someone was mentioning earlier on, you know, with local councils, there's issues with using Zoom, Teams, and so on. But I'll talk about Zoom mainly because Zoom is the most widely platform for it. So it's good for inviting people to and connecting. Microsoft Teams is also quite good, and Skype for Business kind of works. So there's lots of others as well. But anyway, so first thing is you need to choose your platform. Dum, 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 dum. Next, please. Zoom could cost money. For free, as I think everybody knows, you get your kind of like 40-minute thing, and up to 100 people. I think that it's well worth going for the Pro, where you get up to 100 people, unlimited time, and lots of add-ons that are available to it. Yeah, and the sort of add-ons that you get, or the one that we use most frequently, is the webinar functionality, where you can add 100 to 10,000 people in webinar mode. I don't think there's much point in having more than 100 people in what I kind of like describe as sort of participant, in the sort of mode that we're in at the moment, adding to the discussion and so on. So the most, an add-on to add another 100 for a webinar is another £40 or something like that, which is quite a lot, really. But you can do to get similar functionality just by streaming it to Facebook. Okay, so that's Zoom. Moving on, Zoom costs, and as we can see, there's a lot of people in a Zoom conference and how to make heritage tours. We can see everybody, and there's numerous different modes that you can go into. So the main thing I spoke next, please, is screen sharing. So we can do screen sharing in two ways. We can share a window, or we can share a screen. I almost always prefer sharing a screen. And so and then whatever you put on that screen, you can see. It gives you more flexibility. Notice down the bottom, you can share your computer sound, and you can optimize screen sharing for a video clip. Okay, so if you're going to show video, then it's a good idea to tick that and to be aware of it. But we just choose share choose a screen, and then we're away. And then that's a good way of showing videos. Yep, next, please. There's a bunch of different options that we can look at for audio and video sharing, and guides to so doing, which are worth looking through. Audio and video sharing. Okay, next, please. And this is what I'm doing here is if you select the in meeting advanced menu items, you can go down and you can choose allow live streaming meetings to Facebook, Workplace by Facebook, YouTube, and a custom live stream device. Okay, so if you select those, then you get an option that comes up next, please. You get an option. Oh, you see, go back. You get an option here, as you can see, under the more, live on Facebook, live on Workplace, live on YouTube. So you can choose to stream to these destinations, whatever it is that is being presented inside of Zoom. So
if you want to pre-schedule a thing and then use it, the custom live stream is the one to use, because if you live to Facebook, it'll create the live event as you begin it, rather than scheduling it and then creating one.
Okay, so you want to click on custom live streaming service if you're wanting to set it up as part of an event, as opposed to just starting it to stream. Yeah. Although presumably you can just make an announcement in an event about and say where the stream is going to happen, and just use this that way.
Yeah, yeah. Just if you want to set up the live, if you want to do a bunch of setup and live stream first, then yeah, the custom stream is the way you can do that. Though obviously a little more complicated to do.
But I mean, the I suppose the take-home point here is that we can get this webinar functionality, this live webinar functionality, out of Zoom for free by sending it to Facebook. And it's really simple to do that. You just have to click this button and then an option comes up on your screen to start doing it. It's just those options are a little bit hidden in the menu system. So you've got to go and find them in the menu system, set it up, and then it's there. And then you can go live and you've connected your Zoom account to your Facebook or to your YouTube, whichever you like. Okay, next.
Can you stream to more than one at one time, or does it have to be one?
It's one. I mean, you want to choose which one you're
select.
sending it to. Yes.
Thanks.
There are relaying services, which means that, so what you can do is you can send your stream to one place, right? And then that place then sends it on to multiple other places. So it's perfectly possible if you're wanting to stream to Facebook and to YouTube and to some other location, it's perfectly possible to do that to two or three destinations, and may well be a good strategy. If you're doing this regularly, then you can advertise them in each of those places. But remember that each broadcast that you're doing, you're going to get the most out of it if you can advertise it in the channel that you're sending it to prior, so that people know that it's happening and are able to tune in. And that takes a little bit of work. There's an investment in time in letting people know that something is going to be happening. So you can broadcast to two or three places at the same time. If you're going to do that, it's worthwhile investing the time to make it a worthwhile option. So this is showing the settings that we're looking at for broadcasting to Facebook from. So video resolution of 1280 by 720. And generally, I think that's what the sort of area that you want to be looking at. That's 720p. So that's the area that you're wanting to be looking at for live broadcasts. We did a bunch of experiments on resolutions and whether people noticed the difference. And anything below around there, 1280 by 720, it's pretty obvious which ones are better and which ones are worse. Once you get above this 1280 by 720 to HD and 4K, it becomes a lot more difficult for people to know which is the best quality one. So whilst higher resolutions are better, you do suffer in terms of the higher resolution ones are likely to have more issues with the broadcast and stuttering and bad, just bad presentation of it with the higher bit rates. So 1280 by 720, 29 frames per second, 2.4 megabits per second. So remember, Ian could handle about 8. So on the upload, so 2.4 is pretty comfortable. If you were to go to HD, it would be at least twice that, and you'd be starting to hit the boundaries, which you don't want to do. Okay, so that's great. Yeah, so I think that it's really pretty. I mean, the creating the content and the narrative and what you're wanting to communicate. I'm not saying that's easy, but doing a broadcast like that and going live like that, the mechanics of it are easy. And the thing is, with everybody here coming from the heritage sector, you'll have experience of working with narratives and telling stories and doing those sorts of things. And I think that those skills are, you know, hugely transferable into the digital domain, and the digital domain skills are in turn hugely transferable in the most part to doing live broadcasts. You know, it's little more than sitting at a table and having a conversation, structuring it, and all of those sort of things. So I think we can feel confident being able to put on and manage live events as part of the open doors thing. And the big thing I think to bring home, like in the social media and in elsewhere, is the advertising, is having the live event as a way of reaching out to more people. And where you've got some infrastructure like a Facebook page or an Instagram account, then those people that engage through the live event, you can get them to like your page. And so they're going to be informed and more likely to be engaged with other activities that take place on social media. And the goal will be that will then pull them into or keep them connected with the physical activities associated with your site. So this is all part of building profile and so on. So Eventbrite, I don't have a lot of slides on Eventbrite, but what I would say is use it. If you can create your account on on Eventbrite, you can then create the event and don't have huge amount of tips, but you know, give it a name, give it a description. You then create tickets. People can then go to Eventbrite and they can book tickets for your event, and the event can then be that. By doing that, you'll be given a URL, and you can use that URL on Facebook. So Facebook has this thing where it says, you know, book tickets. You put the Eventbrite URL in there, people go to the Facebook advert, they then click on that, and then that then takes you to the Eventbrite, where they can book their tickets. Once they've booked their tickets, they will get email reminders, and you can put the content that you want into the email reminders. So you will get people coming to your event through the Eventbrite advertisements and via the Facebook advertisements, all coming back to the same place. So
Fiona has said there's has anybody used try booking? I've not used that before. That's an alternative that is also good.
Yeah, I'm sure it is. I mean, with most of these things, there are different alternatives. I'm sorry, what was that called? Try booking?
Try booking.
Yeah. So try booking. I'm sure it's good. We've got the recommendation. We've got the recommendation for it. I mean, I know Eventbrite works and is reliable, and a lot of people use it. So it's a good option, and it connects up with Zoom, and it connects up with Facebook quite nicely as well. But yeah, if you've got experience using try booking, maybe tell us a bit more about it later on, and that's great to have that input feed. There's other things as well that things that called Twitch and elsewhere that you can do live. I think you can do live on TikTok. Can you still, Catherine? I mean, but there's lots of sort of different ways of going about doing this. But we thought it was probably better to talk a little bit about Facebook, a little bit about Instagram, Zoom, and Eventbrite as kind of like four sort of pretty mainstream, well-used examples that work well. But yes, there's lots of alternatives as well. And then moving on, thank you for that, Eventbrite. So then Open Broadcaster software is software that we will run on our computer. And what this enables us to do is to essentially be a mini studio, and it lets us on our computer compile together one, we can do recording, and two, what we're going to send off to Facebook and what we're going to send off to Zoom. So yeah.
Yeah, so Open Broadcaster Studio, it's available for multiple platforms. I think that's a slightly newer version of this screenshot, but yeah.
So Windows, Mac OS, Linux. So it's free software, and it's multi-platform software. There are kind of like more commercial things like Panopto and maybe other ones, but this is really widely used broadcasting software. It can be a little bit getting the hang of it, but once you've got the hang of it, you'll be very pleased. Cool.
So here we are installing it. It's just a pretty normal installing process. You tell where much to go, it installs it, puts a bunch of files on your system. And this is what it looks like when you first open it up. So you can create scenes, and you can put sources into the scenes, and you can arrange them around. So in this case, we're capturing a window, which is a browser, probably one of my browsers, because a lot of tabs open.
It's very bad. You should have so many tabs. Oh, there you go. And so this is very early in lockdown, Ian. And we have with us now further in lockdown, Ian. So there's quite a transformation has taken place in the year.
Yeah, I haven't been able to get my hair cut for a while. So, well, I possibly could have recently, but I haven't tried to get my hair cut in quite a long time. So, yeah. So here you can see we've got a browser. We've got browser, which is a window capture, and then we've got a video capture, which is a webcam, and they're laid on top of each other. And you can also put other things, text and blocks of color and images and stuff on top. And
so we basically can arrange lots of different applications onto a window. So like this, so you can have a video showing and some talking and a browser or PowerPoint and these different things. Yeah. And different audio streams as well.
Yep. Yeah, you've got the audio mixer there. You can mute them. You can adjust the volume. You can also send them to a monitor place so you can listen to them on headphones or something. Or even if you have a more complicated setup with audio pipes, you can send them off to well, Zoom is the most obvious thing to be sending them off to, but depending on how you want to do your sound setup. So this is same as with anything else. You go create live, and the difference is you, instead of using a camera, you use a streaming key, and then
where did you get the streaming key from?
The streaming keys in. Oh, sorry, you can't see where I'm pointing. If you look below in the live streaming setup below. You'll see my mouse. This bit here is where the live streaming key would be. I blurred it out because if you had my live streaming key, you could use it to.
Okay, so you don't need to go this way anyway. Okay.
Yeah, and then so in OBS you open up the settings and you go to streaming. You select Facebook Live. There's a whole bunch of streaming things you can send to. You use the default server unless you have some other reason, and then you put the streaming key into the streaming key box. That's it obviously isn't just lots of circles, but that's just the same as a password. It blurs it out. Sometimes when you do this, it'll tell you that your settings are wrong for Facebook and give you the option to change them. If it does that, then just let it do that because it knows what it's doing. And if you've got settings that Facebook want to accept, well, if you've got settings that are wrong for Facebook will probably accept the stream, but it'll have to degrade it. It'll have to downsample itself, and the results aren't nearly as good. So,
but you want to check. That's what I did. So you want to check that you're 720p or below.
Yep.
The video for streaming to Facebook.
And and then we could just at this stage press start streaming, and that would stream it to the Facebook page, and then you could click go live once you're ready. And then that would look like this. Assuming I was streaming that same thing. And below down here, there's stats saying, so that's the right resolution and stuff, and audio is at a reasonable level. If you're on this page and you scroll down, you can see the stream health. It'll tell you if anything's gone wrong. Hopefully, it just tells you all the lines are straight across and everything's going well. But if the lines drop down suddenly, then you have to work out what's going on. Possibly you've lost internet connection or something. So that previously was capturing from a webcam, but if you want to use that with Zoom, so you have people in the conversation plus showing media in a thing that you put together yourself, then yeah, you can do that. You can capture from Zoom just as a normal capture, but if you want to send the video from OBS back into Zoom, there's two ways of doing it. One is with the OBS virtual cam, or it's got a built-in virtual cam now. You can download that, install it. It needs to know where OBS Studio is. You can make up to 4 virtual webcams this way. I don't really know why you would need as many as 4, but in principle you can do it. And then you can set this up. You've got options. You can do horizontal flip. I'm not really sure why you'd want to do that. I think some applications always horizontally flip your video, so you can then undo it with this, but that's unlikely to be a good idea. And then you can just in Zoom select that as the video. Alternatively, alternatively, you can also do it a different way. Here we've got this in studio mode rather than the other mode. That gives you what you're streaming at the moment and the preview, so you can switch to a different scene and press the fade button, and that fades it out. So here in Zoom, we are setting the video to the OBS camera, and that. That's how you select the camera. The alternative way of doing that is you right-click on the program one and go full screen, and then select the monitor, and that'll make it full screen on a monitor like this. And then you can just screen share that in Zoom, and then everybody will get that at the same quality that you're sending, or about the same quality you're sending it to Facebook. There might, if your screen's different size from what you're sending to Facebook, there might be slight amount of resampling, but shouldn't be too much. Here we've got a more complicated setup where I've got a bunch of different scenes. The one on the program is saying stream starting soon. The other one's just showing the entire Zoom window. The other setups, I'll go on to. That's just sending. That's the view in. If you're using the virtual cam, that's the view you get in Zoom. One of them's me and one of them's another me on a different computer for this example. But normally there'd obviously be a bunch of other people along the top. They're got one saying stream starting soon. The other I've got a browser window, a banner along the bottom with a logo and some text, and then the one in the corner is captured from Zoom, so it's a different person. Here we're capturing some using video capture to capture from a different machine the video and the preview, the slides and the other one, so you can fade between them whilst during the stream.
Ian, can I ask a question? There's a question, does Open Broadcaster, how much computing power do you need for that? Do you need a pretty good machine to run that, or will it run on anything?
I mean, you want a reasonably modern computer. If you have a dedicated graphics card, it will probably have the ability to do the encoding for it, which means that you need less processing power, which is good. Of course, those only really happen on computers with more processing power, but it is better to have hardware encoder. But you should be able to do it on any relatively modern laptop.
Okay, thank you.
It's not as demanding as computer gaming stuff. So quite a good spectrum of computers will support this. Okay. I mean, are we coming to a close there, Ian? I think.
Yes, we're getting near our time limit.
I just thought it'd be good to have a little bit of time for see if there's any questions or discussion or to.
That's just
if
showing.
anybody wants to start putting in the chat the questions now while Ian finishes up, and then we can ask them.
That's just showing that being browsed. That's what it shows up on the control page on Facebook, and then obviously on Facebook you just see just the video, and then that's the OBS stuff finished.
I think if we leave the relaying to on the slides, really, if people want to like go into that further, or you can email us and we'll provide support for that. But it's good to know that it's possible to do the relaying things. I mean, I feel that the world of live broadcasting is really an exciting one to be engaged in, and that it's certainly something that is accessible for everybody to, have a go at. It gets a little bit more complicated when you're trying to mix everything together, but that's still interesting, at the OBS end of the spectrum as well. But also, I think that if you were wanting to put on a live event for Doors Open, we'd be happy to provide support if you felt you needed that, from hosting it through to just having a chat about the specific things that you were wanting to try to do. So we've done that in the past. But yeah, Jen, over to you.
Yeah, well, I mean, I liked what I hadn't thought about, I guess, because I've not done live streaming. But when Catherine was talking about doing something that's sort of collaborative, I think that sounds like fun. And again, so we've got a lot of people from the Doors Open Days community here. If that was something people wanted to try, where we bounce from location to location, you have a few places signed up to do it. I think that would be sort of a fun experiment. That's something I would personally like to try. Pop between a few different venues that are completely different parts of the country,
like they do in the European Song Contest.
Yes, yeah,
Good,
exactly.
good.
My deux poids go to I don't know.
Yes, the team. Yeah, I'm sure that I'm sure that sounds like a great idea, and I'm sure it's the germ of a fantastic
I think it would be
event.
fun. Oh. So there's another question. How would you go about recording using PowerPoint? So this, I think, well, that's one of the things we covered in one of the previous workshops is like, so if you were creating a guide for somebody on how to use it, how do you record it? But actually you can record things right in PowerPoint.
Oh
So this
yeah, I mean, Ian, maybe you just flap up PowerPoint and just, I mean, if you go to play, right, then could you put up PowerPoint?
Because this was something we talked about in, was it in video, that actually you could use PowerPoint as a cheeky little shortcut.
Yeah, so if you go to slideshow at the top, the menu item.
Yeah.
Okay, and then you've got record slideshow in the middle. Yeah, so you click on that. I'm not quite sure where your window's gone.
Oh, wait. Yeah, you're probably not seeing the right thing. I will just change to that. Right, you should be able to see that now. But I move these controls.
Sorry. So the thing is that when you press on record, PowerPoint gives you two windows. One shows the thing that you're showing, and one shows the controls. And what we've now is the record thing. So if you were to click on the camera there, like you say, I think you only got one bottom right. Sorry, if you were to click on that to turn camera on, you can't because it's already captured. Then you'd get a little window of yourself speaking, and then when you press record, it will record the sound. It will record. There you go. It records the sound. It records yourself, and then you can go through the PowerPoint like that, and that enables you to record the PowerPoint thing, but also would be handy. It would be handy in a where you're broadcasting as well. So if you're broadcasting, if you're doing shared screen, then this is the screen that is going to get shared. So you could use it like that.
And Alan, I think you said when you use PowerPoint, it does have a captioning option. It can create some live captions auto-generated.
It will
or do you add that in after the fact?
Yeah, it will create closed captions for you. and it will also translate it into a foreign language. Not Gaelic, unfortunately, but
Grand.
I don't want
French.
to record the slides. I want to record how to download the template and make it usable. And specifically, it's going to be for children to use. But I want to record that bit of it as opposed to the PowerPoint itself.
Well, so you
You
want
want to do screen capture. You want to be doing sort of activities on your screen, and you want to capture those into a video.
Yeah.
So, Ian, what were you going to say?
I was going to suggest OBS. You can set it up to capture your screen and then press record, and it'll record it.
Sorry, what was that? I missed the first bit.
OBS.
OBS. So if you switch, do you want to show how to do that then, Ian? Can we show that live?
I'll try. Okay.
Because impromptu live demos are always, but yeah, open broadcasting software. Okay. Let's just do screen capture of videos. You just need to say what you're doing, really.
Right. Well, so I'll just move to an empty or a much thinner scheme.
Okay, so we've got, this is kind of like, yes. So what you've done, Ian's done there is he's launched your open broadcasting software with a kind of vanilla thing with nothing set up, and then he's chosen the desktop as the thing for people to be able to see, and then he's clicking on the settings.
And you can select which display you want, and there's different capture methods. If it's not working, then try those. But usually auto works. There's a few specialized types of applications that auto doesn't work for.
Could I use QuickTime Player for that as well?
I'm sorry?
QuickTime Player, would that work? Oh no, that's
to do the recording.
Yeah.
I don't know, to be honest with you.
Well, I haven't got
you know, QuickTime.
Or
I mean, its name suggests it's a player, but it might be able to do capturing. I'm not.
It does.
I'm not really
It does. I can record this meeting if I want to.
Okay. Well, it probably can then.
Okay, we'll give that a shot. Or if not, OBS. That's great. Thank you.
There's another question. So when you're doing the live broadcasting, so if you're using your phone, do you suggest using a gimbal? And if you do, is it okay to just use a cheap one, or do you sort of get better stability? You know, if you actually spend more money.
I mean, if you can spend a lot of money. I mean, yes, a gimbal is a good thing. It gives you stability. So if you're going to be walking around and moving around and doing pan shots and this sort of thing, then a gimbal would be a good idea. I mean, a selfie stick is a good idea, or even a selfie stick or a monopod or something like that, so you can put the camera on it and you've got something more substantial to hold and some control over where it's going to go. But I would suggest, in general, experiment with cheap solutions, and if they don't deliver to you what you want, consider investing in more stuff. I have a kind of golden rule, which is don't buy something until there is something that you want to do that you can't do with the equipment that you've got. Yes, I mean, you can spend a lot of money on gimbals and things, and you know, hey, you why not, you know, buy a drone, put the drone into the air, beam the drone back, and broadcast that. I mean, we can go to a lot of places, but yes, a gimbal. But if you've not got a gimbal, then try a selfie stick and see how far you get with that and what sort of improvement you get with that.
Okay,
You think that's fair, Catherine, or should I be more? Yeah, get a gimbal.
The thing is, you can always spend money, right? But
Yeah.
like, You just have to see that if if you're going to be able to use it. Are you going to use it once? Can you use it for multiple things?
Yeah.
It just depends. If you foresee yourself doing quite a lot, then the stability does help. But I don't know. I think that kind of like adventure style, kind of out in the woods, a little bit shaky, is totally fine, because lots of videographers and YouTubers make lots of money just with the handheld turned around on their face. So
I have to say that for the last 10 years, a gimbal has been on my list of things I want to buy, but it's never made it onto the list of things that I am actually going to buy. So I do spend time that's a great gimbal. Oh, I really, really wish I had that. But I never quite made it to the. Mandy, what's PSR recording? I'm not really sure. It's probably
I thought what Christine was asking was like how to record in the steps of doing a task. And if you do the PSR recording, it automatically records your steps you take on the computer, which is quite handy sometimes if you have to do like a little manual for anything.
Yeah, I think that's right. What we've talked about there, it does occur to me that, if you've got a good Zoom connection, you can broadcast your screen to Zoom, and Zoom itself has a record function in it, as does Microsoft Teams. So that might be the simplest way of doing that, but OBS is probably the right way to do it, and there was other that I know of, and then there was other things that you were talking about, Christine, and I can't remember what it was. What was the platform again? It was QuickTime. Yeah, I mean, I think QuickTime's a little bit depreciated, is it? Apple stepping away from it. QuickTime was an Apple format, wasn't it? Is that right? I could be wrong. Yeah. So yes. Yeah. I think PSR is. We've done a bit of that, and we should probably do more of it.
Okay. Well, I'm very conscious of the fact that we have gone over time. So thank you, everybody, for staying with us. And as ever, if you have any questions or comments or concerns, you can always email me. This is our final digital skills workshop. So thanks very much for coming along to it. I will be distributing the recordings along with copies of the slides, the public chat text, and a resource document for your use. And also you will get from Eventbrite an automatic email asking for feedback. So if you do have any feedback, if you've attended one session or all of the sessions, please do go on and fill that out, because we use that to change and improve and decide what type of content we are going to offer. So last year, this was all very experimental. The session this year was framed around the feedback that we got from that, and we rejigged things and changed some themes around. So please do, because we do take that feedback very seriously. And thank you all for joining us. And it was lovely to spend some afternoons with you. And again, if you want to collaborate and try doing something for Doors Open Day as a little experiment, get in touch. Don't hesitate, because I want to try something sort of interesting and live broadcasty. So if you want to take that further, let us know. So if there's no other burning questions or anything, I just want to thank Alan and Ian and Catherine for all of their hard work, for all of the content that they've delivered over the past 6 sessions. Thank you so much for supporting us. And I guess we'll see everybody hopefully again in the future at either a Doors Open Days event or at another workshop or another event that we organize.